Hi, this is Prios. Today bringing you a Poker After Dark hand that played out a few years ago. A really interesting one that's starting with a family pot. Enjoy!
Let's get a look at the latest tally. Phil Ivey up over $150,000. Galfond, the only other player turning a profit. Dwan pretty much hovering around even. Hastings not too proud of minus 33,000, but it's Patrick Antonius and Brandon Adams that are having the roughest night.
Ivey limping in is a bit loose. I would like to see a fold here. He is first to act and has a ton of aggressive players behind. In general, we don't want to play dangler hands like this first to act on an aggressive table. In general, we want to come in with a raise or fold. Limping first in is not an optimal strategy.
It's Brandon's down.
Dwan also has an easy fold. He's blocking two hearts himself. In addition to that, his rundown is really low. We want to have hands that draw to the nuts, and we want to avoid hands that make second or third nuts, because that hands will get us into a lot of trouble and cost us a lot of money in the long run.
On 68,000 and Patrick stuck 85.
Hastings is in a tough spot. I don't mind a fold or a call. Calling definitely is loose, and we got some reverse implied odds if we hit a set in a multi-way pot, because we might face a higher set. In favor of our hand, I got to say that we have a nut suit and position for the rest of the hand, and so far it's cheap to enter the pot.
Patrick straddling to 1,200. So far, Ivey and Dwan are both along. Hastings joins the party. Galfond calls, and Brandon Adams gives us our first family pot.
Adams has a terrible hand and one person behind that can still raise it up. His hand plays so bad in a family pot that I would still throw it away, although I'm getting a discount. Patrick has a mediocre hand, and his only option here is taking a free flop.
$10-9-6 rainbow. Patrick Antonius has flopped the nuts.
But Ivey's going to be in there with him with a king, queen, jack wrap.
Any picture card or an 8, and Ivey's got the nuts.
Galfond would also make a...
Antonius made the nuts. He needs to bet here. He needs to bet because he wants to thin the field and protect his hand. There are also many cards that you don't want to see. For example, a 7, an 8, a jack, a queen, a king, or any card that's pairing the board. Ivey now has two options. Folding is not an option. He has to decide if he wants to raise or call with his rep and backdoor flush. I like calling most, as he can represent a full house later if the board pairs, and it's unlikely that Patrick is betting anything else than the nuts into 5 people.
straight with a king or an 8. But
Dwan finally might see that his hand is no good and fold.
But if an 8 hits, we're going to have to check the deck because all 4 8s.
Hastings is in an interesting spot, as he has 2 8s. The so-called blocker to the straight. He could represent it by raising, doing the so-called blocker bluff. This is often a really profitable situation in PLO, although I would shy away from doing it here, as we are in a family pot and someone can still have it easily, and there are also a lot of other straight draws that can continue facing action, and 2 people already showed interest in the pot.
Are in the player's hands.
Galfond is getting 3.5 to 1 here to call. He just has an open ender and a backdoor spade draw. Although it looks like you are getting a good price at first glance, you should still fold, as you never got 8 outs here, and if you hit, you often have to split the pot with another guy, who also makes the same straight. It will also be hard to extract value on later streets, as he is out of position. You also got one more player behind who might reopen the pot by raising. Admittedly, the chances are really slim, but it's still possible.
5,000 to call for Galfond. He's on board, down to 3 players. 22,000 and change in the middle. Antonius's hand holds on the turn.
A good card for Patrick. He's still got the nuts, but needs to give both players credit for having a real good hand, as we decide to continue in a family pot on the flop. Patrick needs to protect his hand. Betting big here is the only play, charging drawing hand the maximum.
Galfond picks up a spade draw, however, as does Ivey.
No point in raising here for Ivey, as Patrick has the nuts 95% of the time. With a draw that huge in a spot like this, he should just call and play some poker on the river.
Patrick pretty much potting it here.
He's got the nuts right now, but his hand is very vulnerable.
What does Patrick know about anybody who's going to call this pot-sized bet with respect to their hand?
Well, they probably flopped either straight.
After making the loose flop peel, galfond now is committed to peel one more card, trying to outdraw his opponent.
Draw or a set, and probably picked up a flush draw on the turn.
Without the flush draw, they wouldn't be able to make this call?
Well, you might not have enough odds to call here with just a naked set or an open-ended straight draw.
Phil Galfond does indeed have a flush to go with his open-ended straight draw, so it's not naked. Pot up to over $85,000 in a disastrous river for Patrick Antonius, but it could be
Tough decision if galfond should bet or not. I'm not sure if he can extract value from Patrick by betting, because even if Patrick might suspect Phil being full of shit, what makes really little sense, as he should have balls of steel to bluff here into 2 people, he also got Ivey behind, who might have made his hand. So galfond can just expect to get value from Patrick if he had a flush draw to go with his straight. Extracting value from Ivey could also be difficult. If he had a drawing hand that missed, he will fold now. And if he has a set, he might lay it down as well. So he need one to either make a hero call or to have made a jack high flush or lower to extract value. If galfond decides to go for the check call, he might get value from lower flushes that bet for value incorrectly, or from Ivey turning his set or missed rep into a bluff. Playing like this also protects yourself from getting bluffed from an ace-high blocker. I don't mind what he does here. The options are close together in EV.
even worse for Phil Galfond.
Well, Phil Galfond's probably going to make a bet here. I'm not sure what Patrick Antonius is going to do, and Ivey is definitely at least calling. He might be moving all in.
As already mentioned, Patrick now has an easy fold.
Is there any chance 7-8 is good here for Patrick? Never mind that he's got Ivey behind him.
Well, there's a small chance that Galfond is bluffing and Ivey doesn't have a flush.
Is there really a small chance, though? Is there any chance Phil Galfond ever leads this big on the end without spades?
Gotta call.
There is a chance, but I don't think it's big enough to justify a call.
Wow, okay.
Try telling that to Patrick Antonius, who just...
Ivey also now is in a kind of tough spot. Although he has the second nuts, he's facing a bet and a call. That's representing a lot of strength. I think he is too high up in his range to fold. This is not only a range consideration. There are also a lot of scenarios in that he is still ahead. as galfond most likely leads with some ace-high blocker bluffs and high flushes, and Patrick could call any flush or be a hero with a straight. So I would call, being a bit unhappy about it. Let's see what he does.
Called off the rest of his stack. Ivey calls as well.
I have a queen high flush, king high flush.
The rich just keep getting richer.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, please subscribe and or like. Also feel free to comment below.